Hello and welcome to Art with Mr. P. This week we're painting. We're also visiting science. Sometimes science is interested in how colours mix and become other colours and how light behaves. We're going to be looking at a version of something that we've kind of looked at before. Previously we looked at something called linear perspective, which is where things appear smaller the further away they are. This time we're going to look at aerial perspective, which is how things look fainter and paler the further away they are. Now the reason they do this is because of the particles in the atmosphere and the particles in the air that stop some of the light getting to us, so that things look like the further away they are, the paler they are, Now, on something like the moon, where there's not much atmosphere, you don't get nearly as much aerial perspective. So things that are hundreds of miles away don't look like they're hundreds of miles away. If you look at pictures of the astronauts on the moon, there are some very strange effects. So there's another science connection. Anyway, I'm going to ask you to paint an urban or a town landscape. And anyway, enough from me. Let's be creative. Let's have some fun. Okay, we're going to start off by sketching out the shapes of buildings in a town or city. So I'm thinking, now you don't need to use a ruler. Let's have a look. I think we're going to get a few triangle shapes with chimneys. We're going to get, let's do another one over here. So some older houses with chimneys. We're going to get some flat roofs, no doubt. We're going to get some buildings that look maybe like schools or factories. Something like that. We're going to get some foliage. There's going to be some trees somewhere, you would hope. But more triangles, more triangular shapes. And let's do more flat again. Now behind that we're going to get taller buildings. So we might get something that looks a bit like a church. Church spire. We're going to get some tall blocks of flats maybe, or whatever they might be, some kind of buildings. And behind those we're going to get more buildings again. So there might be a tower block, an office block here, maybe. Another one there. Now remember, when you're doing this, I'm going off the page, you don't have to follow my design, This is just a starting point. What you come up with is up to you. And I think we'll even put the sun in, shall we? And let's put it in here. If it is the sun or the moon, whichever you prefer. There it is. And I think we need another row of houses down here, don't we? Might be a gap between some of these houses. See, most buildings are based on rectangles, of course. Okay, I think that will do nicely. Let's put a couple of chimneys in somewhere. One and two, a bit crumbly, that one. And what we're going to do is we're going to mix greys, version of grey, and we're going to fill in each layer of this town with the warmest greys at the front, the darkest and warmest greys at the front, and the coolest and lighter greys at the far away buildings. And the reason for that is that the further away things are, the cooler they tend to look, and bright, warm colours have a tendency to look like they're closer, yeah. And also, because of what's in the atmosphere, the buildings will further away are paler because little particles, the microscopic particles in the atmosphere, and the haze are blocking out some of the light coming from the faraway buildings. So I'm going to start in the distance. So, looking at the palette, I'm going to take some white. I'm going to take a little bit of blue and just a hint of black. Now, be careful with the black because it tends to take over, yeah? So, start with just a little bit. Now, that looks a bit dark to me, so I've already fallen into that trap. So I'm going to take a little bit of it and add some white. You don't really want to be adding white though, because what you'll find is you could add white for the rest of your life. See how much white I added, and it's hardly made any difference. So I'm going to take a little bit of that and add white to it. There we are. I think I've got a sky colour. I also think that I need a smaller brush. So what I'm going to do is sky, I'm going to fill in that colour. The furthest away buildings, I'm going to fill in a slightly darker colour, and I'm going to add some more blue to it so it looks cooler as well, yeah? Okay, so that layer of buildings will be that colour, and then the next layer of buildings will be slightly warmer again and slightly darker. So can you see how that's the lightest grey? Slightly darker, slightly darker. So this layer of buildings will be this colour. And then I'm going to add just a little bit of red into this. And the nearer buildings will be this colour now. I've put a little bit too much red in there. So you've got to be so careful when you're mixing painting. Okay, so the colours, as the colours move down the page, not only do they get slightly darker each time the building is closer, but it also gets warmer as well. Right, let's do that. So, sky. So I think even the sun or the moon will have some colour in it. And I think what we'll do is something like that. Okay. There we have it. So, just to recap, the further away the colour is, the paler it is, and in terms of art we make it cooler, so there's more blue in it. So the sky is the coolest bit. Now, put a little bit of purple in the sun, maybe a little bit too much, just to make it look like it does have a little bit of warmth about it. Like that. And then as the buildings look closer, they get warmer and they get stronger in tints of colour, and they get darker. So that this building here should look much further away than this building here. Okay, very good. So this week in painting, as our starting point, we've looked at aerial perspective. Painting is very much about colour, and we've looked at line and shape as well. Next week, we're going to revisit collage. So you might need some materials to collect before then, old magazines, old newspapers, bits of wrapping paper, things that you can cut and stick. Anyway, I'll see you then.